The wind on Arden 3 never stopped. It moved over the dark plains and across the iron hills, carrying ash like gray snow. The sky was often thick with steam and dust. In the early morning the sun tried to break through, but it was small and red. People on the colony learned to live with that light. They woke early, worked hard, and slept when they could. Life there was simple on the surface, but it was never easy. John stood at the edge of the settlement and watched the steam rise from the valley. He was a tall man with rough hands and a steady face. He had lived on Arden 3 for most of his life. He remembered the first ships that had come decades before. At first, the colony had been small. A few families, some machines, and a plan to make a home where it might be possible. They had expected help from Earth that never came. Messages were slow and rare. The colony had to learn how to be its own world. People like Mary and Alex had stories about those first days. Mary would tell how the water processors broke down and no one knew how to fix them. Alex would laugh and say he learned to make a pump out of old parts and a length of pipe. When the big companies stopped sending parts, the colonists learned to use what they had. That skill became their pride. They could take a broken tool and make it work again. They could take a scrap of metal and turn it into a useful part. Over time, those small skills added up into something larger. The colony had a center where the people gathered. It was not a grand building. It was a cluster of low structures welded together, with cables and pipes running like veins. A tall mast of metal rose in the middle and held an old radio dish. That dish was patched many times. It still sent and received signals, but it often took many days for a reply. The children ran around the pipes and played games with old screws. The elders sat on benches and told stories. Those stories shaped the new life on Arden 3. The settlement had a workshop where many of the colony's tools were made. Lee worked there. She had a quick mind and a way of looking that made people listen. She was not the only smart person, but she was the one who could read an old manual and make it useful. She and her team were always covered in oil and soot. They would cut, grind, and fit metal into new machines. The workshop was full of machines that looked strange to an outsider. Wheels from a long dead rover were turned into presses. Old solar panels were rewired to run pumps. People came to the workshop when they needed a new idea. Children were taught to make things from a young age. Kate taught the boys and girls how to hold a wrench and how to measure a pipe. She would say, "If you can measure right, you can build strong." Even the games the children played had lessons hidden inside. They would race to see who could fix a broken drone the fastest. They would earn points for using the fewest parts. Those small games made the young people ready for the real work of the colony. Food was not wasted. Every farm patch was guarded and fed. Nora was the one who knew the soil. She had a garden that fed 10 families. She taught others how to mix nutrient paste and how to grow shoots in ash. People grew roots that tasted plain but gave energy. They grew small trees in controlled domes for fruit. The colony's diet was heavy on roots and tubers, with protein made from cultured cells in small vats. The food was simple, but it kept people alive and able to work. Arden 3 was not a place of high comfort. The houses were insulated with layered cloth and metal. The heat came from small stoves fed with processed coal and plant waste. At night the sound of the wind pressed against walls like a long, slow drum. People would sit close to the stoves and talk. Sometimes they spoke of the old world, of oceans and blue skies. Those stories were like dreams. They hung on to them, but they did not let the dreams stop their hands. Their hands needed to fix the water filter or mend the power grid. There were rules that grew from need rather than law. If a family had a spare battery, they shared it with a neighbor who had a sick child. If someone found a part in the ash, they brought it to the workshop so others might use it. The council, a group of 5 people chosen by the whole settlement, kept the order. Ben was on the council. He had a kind voice but a mind for numbers. He would say, "We do not have luxuries. We have to be fair. Fair keeps us alive." People respected him because he worked with his hands too. Outside the settlement, the land was wild. The volcanic fields held heat under the ground. Men and women who went to work the mines knew the danger. They wore heavy suits and masks that scrubbed the ash. They carried tools that hummed and glowed. Sam was one of the miners. He had a scar on his cheek from a rock that had shifted under his foot years ago. He told his children to watch their steps and to trust the rope. The miners returned with ore and with stories about the land. They spoke of strange formations and of dark shapes deep under the earth. Space above them seemed far away and strange. The other worlds of the galaxy were beyond the red sun and the steam. Colonists sometimes spoke of the cities that had towers and bright lights. They spoke of ships that moved like birds and machines that never broke. Those places seemed like different lives. The galaxy called Arden 3 primitive. That word hurt some and amused others. John would say, "Primitive means we do the basics well, we survive. The rest is fancy talk." He liked the simplicity. It kept him focused. One day a ship drifted close to the planet and did not land. It was a survey skiff sent by a private exploration group. It hovered above a ridge and sent down a small probe. The colonists watched from a distance. The probe took a few images and flew back. The ship's pilot sent a short message. The settlement was recorded, noted as a small outpost with limited tech. The report said there was no need for assistance. The surveyors left, convinced that the place had no value. The report reached the colony after a delay. The people read it and some laughed, some shrugged, and some felt a flicker of something else. Claire, who worked in the comms hut, looked at the message and felt the cold weight of the words. She had a soft voice but a strong heart. She told the council, "They do not see us, they look and leave. We must keep making our work better. We cannot wait for others to decide our fate." That idea spread. The colony would not wait for rescue or praise, it would make its own path. The settlers had a way of learning from mistakes. When a generator failed in a storm, they met in the workshop and studied the broken part until heat climbed their faces from the lamp. They would draw a plan on scrap metal and then cut metal by hand until the new part fit. It was hard work, but the results were their own. They did not fear being wrong. Instead, they used the wrong as a lesson. Failures were kept in a small log. Years later, the log read like a map of their skill. There was a quiet pride in small improvements. The colony kept a list of inventions made from old parts. A crank from a child's toy became a pressure regulator. A broken satellite dish gave them a set of lenses for a machine that could detect heat under the ground. Lee put her name on many of the items because she often led the work. But she always said the design belonged to the whole team. When a new idea worked, everyone felt the gain. Old tales were told about why Earth had stopped sending many supplies. Some said the shipping lanes were closed after a trade war. Others said Earth had become busy with its own problems. No one knew for sure, and it did not matter much. The colony shaped its future from the present. They did not sit and wait for decisions made in far places. The colony had a small school where children learned letters and numbers. They also learned to fix engines and to read old star maps. A teacher named Eric held class under a shed because the wind made the indoor room too cold. He would draw a circle and write the word planet. He would show where Arden 3 sat among the faded stars. The children listened and imagined the wide worlds. They wanted to learn because learning meant more choices. The school also taught honesty and fairness. Those lessons made the colony work together. When machines failed far from the settlement, a repair crew went out. They carried kit boxes and patches. They walked with a slow, steady step because the rocks were rough and their packs were heavy. Mia led one of the teams and kept a small notebook where she drew the broken parts. She took notes about which part failed first and then suggested a change. Her notebooks became important. People used them to avoid the same problem again. At the center of the colony's life were the community days. Once a week, everyone came together to share food and stories. They would set up tables and put simple lights on stands. People sat and shared the small luxuries they had found or made. A family might bring a strip of fabric with a bright color, and others would look and comment on the weave. They would listen to songs that spoke of rivers and of travel, songs that were short and full of feeling. Those nights kept the people from feeling alone. Hope lived in small acts. When a child's leg was broken, the whole settlement helped keep the child warm and fed. When a storm took a roof, people worked in shifts to rebuild it. Those acts built trust. Trust made the colony strong. The colony also had its troubles. Sometimes arguments grew between families who wanted to use a rare part. Money did not mean much. They mostly traded favors and goods. Trust could break, and when it did, the council worked to fix the wound before it grew. There were also nights when the ash fell so thick that breathing was hard. On those nights, families gathered inside and told the old stories of the first ship's landing. Those stories were full of strange names and old songs. One of the old stories told about a ship that had carried a library of design schematics. People said the library was lost in the early years when a dust storm hit the landing site. Some people searched for pieces of those schematics for years. The drawings that remained were worn and hard to read, but they helped. They taught the colonists that even the advanced designs could be broken down and rebuilt with simpler parts. That lesson stayed with them. Outside the small comforts, the planet held danger and treasure alike. The miners sometimes found odd black veins that shimmered when light hit them. The veins were rare and scattered beneath the ash. Sam had once brought back a thin strip of the black material, and the whole workshop had gathered to look at it. Lee studied it and scratched a small mark. She said, "This is not like anything I have seen. It might be worth keeping for special work." They put the strip in a locked chest. It was a mystery that made the children whisper. Life on Arden 3 shaped the people. They were no longer the kind of settlers who waited for help. They fixed things. They learned to read old manuals and to make new rules. They grew quiet strength. When scouts from greater worlds saw their small homes, they called it primitive. The settlers did not protest. They kept working. They knew what mattered, the ability to make the simple things strong and to protect the lives of their neighbors. John often walked with an old rover that had seen better years. He would polish a bolt or tighten a wire. He thought about the future sometimes, but not in large plans. He thought about small steps. He thought about teaching a child to weld or about fixing a pump so that a family would have water for the week. That small thinking made the colony move forward slowly but surely. In the evenings, under the red sun, the people would stand by the edge of the settlement and watch the steam rise over the fields. They would breathe in and out and feel the world around them. They had built a life from dust and ash and from the sweat of their hands. They were tired, but they were not empty. They were ready in a quiet way for when the galaxy might notice them again. For now they were content to be what they had to be, a place that could mend, make, and survive. The ground shook 3 times before anyone understood what was happening. At first people thought it was another small quake, the kind that came and went without much harm. But then a heavy rumble rolled across the valley, and dust rose in a long wave from the far side of the iron hills. The tremors made cups fall from shelves and caused loose bolts to roll across workshop floors. Children cried out and ran to the arms of nearby adults. The animals in the farm stamped their feet and pulled at their tethers. John stepped out of his home and looked toward the hills. The sky had a faint glow, not bright, but strange enough to catch his eye. The color was a deep orange mixed with a pulsing red, like a slow heartbeat behind the mountains. He saw others gathering in the open path, pointing at the haze that drifted upward. No one knew what it meant, but they all felt the same unease. Mary arrived from the farm outskirts carrying a small child on her hip. She said she had seen cracks open in the soil, cracks that hummed with heat. She had never seen cracks like that before. They were too straight and too dark. Alex came running a few moments later, holding a set of tools in his hand. He said, "Something broke open under there, something big." His voice held more excitement than fear. The council met quickly. The tremors had shaken more than buildings. They had stirred the worry that lived quietly inside every settler. Ben spoke with calm words. He explained they needed to send a team to explore the hills and see what had shifted. They could not ignore the land. It fed them, supported their minds, and sometimes threatened them. A team was chosen: John, Alex, Lee, and Sam. They prepared heavy suits because the ground near the hills was unstable even on normal days. Mia ran to give them fresh filters for their masks, and Claire passed them small radios linked to the tower. The radios were not strong, but they worked well enough within a few kilometers. The walk to the hills was slow. The rocks were sharp and loose. Dust rose in small clouds with each step. The tremors had changed parts of the path, breaking some places and lifting others. When they reached the base of the largest hill, they saw new cracks in the surface. Some looked like jagged lines. Others were clean, smooth, and wider than a hand. A warm gust of air rose from the deepest opening. Sam knelt next to the crack and held his gloved hand above it. "There is heat coming out," he said quietly. Not normal heat. Something else is down there. Lee took out a small scanner the workshop had built from old ship parts. She waved it over the crack. The device made a faint beeping sound. It was not a sound they heard often because the scanner rarely detected anything unusual. She frowned and checked the screen. There is a strong reading here. It is not like the ores we usually find. This is something new. Alex leaned closer and used his lamp to shine into the crack. The light touched something dark and reflective. It was a smooth, deep black with a faint shimmer that moved like liquid though it was solid rock. "We found more of that strange material," he said. "The same type we saw years ago, but only in tiny bits. This is a whole vein." John looked at the hill and at the long crack that stretched far across the slope. The quake must have broken open the ground to reveal the vein. The air felt warm on his skin even through the suit. This was no normal mineral. He knew they had found something important. They returned to the settlement with samples. Lee placed the sample on a metal table in the workshop. The black mineral caught the light and reflected it with a soft glow. It looked almost alive in the way it shifted colors. People gathered around to look. Nora whispered, "It looks like night trapped in stone." Lee ran tests on the sample for hours. She used every tool the workshop had. She heated it, cooled it, scanned it, and struck it lightly with a hammer. The mineral was strong. Not crack or bend. When she applied energy to it, the mineral reacted with a soft blue pulse. Lee stepped back in surprise. "This mineral stores energy," she said to the team. "It does not just hold it, it changes it. It stabilizes energy in a way I have not seen before. If we can use this, we might make better engines or better reactors." The settlers listened in silence. They all understood the meaning behind her words. Engines and reactors were the heart of most advanced machines. If this mineral could improve them, their small colony might be sitting on something precious. The council gathered again. Ben listened to Lee's full report. She explained that the mineral reacted to certain frequencies and could absorb unstable power flows without breaking apart. "This is not like any ore we mine," she said. "It could be valuable to us. It could also attract unwanted attention. We must move slowly." After the meeting, the settlers prepared a careful mining plan. They knew the land was fragile after the quake. Sam and his team built reinforced supports inside the cracked hill to keep it from collapsing. Lee designed a new set of tools that could cut the mineral without damaging it. Alex adapted old mining rigs to run on low power cycles that kept the heat from rising too fast. Within a week, they extracted the first crate of the mineral. It gleamed like black glass under the lamps. Claire recorded everything in the colony logs. She said, "We should keep this quiet for now. If someone hears we found something rare, they may come before we are ready." The settlers agreed. They had lived too long without outside help to trust the galaxy with their secrets. Lee began experiments with the new mineral. She built a small prototype reactor in the workshop. It was not large, just big enough to fit on a table. The reactor hummed softly when she turned it on. The lights in the room flickered at first, then stabilized. The shadows on the wall stretched and shifted with a smooth rhythm. "This is incredible," Lee said. "The energy output is steady. No spikes, no noise, it runs clean, and it runs cold." People stared. A cold reactor was almost unheard of. Their old machines always ran hot and needed cooling coils and large vents. A cold reactor meant safer machines, longer run times, and better efficiency. John tested the reactor by attaching it to a small engine. The engine spun faster than it ever had. It did not shake or sputter. It moved with a soft, stable hum. When he shut it off, the engine was cool to the touch. "If we build this into our mining rigs," he said, "we can reach deeper, we can extract more, we can build better tools." The workshop filled with excitement. They worked late into the night, building parts and testing new ideas. Even the children watched with bright eyes from the corners of the room. As days passed, the colony changed. They built new machines powered by the mineral. Their mining speed increased. They refined the mineral in new furnaces built from scrap. These furnaces glowed with a soft blue light and emitted almost no smoke. The settlers did not fully understand how far this discovery could take them. They only knew they had found something special and that it gave them hope. The next unexpected moment came when a small alien ship landed at the edge of the valley. It descended slowly, sending dust in spirals around its base. People gathered but kept a safe distance. Visitors were rare and often came with questions they did not want to answer. A single figure stepped out of the ship. The alien wore a sleek suit and carried a scanner. His skin was pale blue and smooth. He introduced himself through a translator. He said they were conducting routine surveys for an exploration guild. He walked through the settlement, scanning the buildings and machines. He nodded politely but showed little interest in their simple homes. When he passed by the workshop, Lee stepped in front of the door. She smiled calmly and said, "This is our work area. It is not open for tour." The alien accepted her answer and scanned only the outside. He made a small note in his device, then said, "Your settlement is minimal and primitive. No advanced structures, no rare signals. You appear stable." When he left, some settlers let out slow breaths they had been holding. They had hidden the crates of mineral under the old storage shed. The alien never saw them, but Claire worried. "If a quake revealed that mineral," she said, "it might reveal more. If more tremors come, other ships might see something. We must prepare." The council agreed. They increased mining efforts, built new storage rooms underground, and reinforced the workshop. They also trained more people to handle the mineral so the knowledge would not rest in only a few hands. One evening, Lee walked out to the edge of the hill where they first found the mineral. She looked down at the dark crack and felt the warm air rising. The stars above her twinkled faintly in the thin sky. She thought about what the mineral could mean for their future. She thought about machines that could carry them farther than ever before, machines that could lift them to the stars. Sam stood beside her and said quietly, "Do you think this will change everything?" Lee nodded slowly. "It already has. We just do not see the whole path yet. But this mineral, it is from this world. And we are from this world now too. Maybe that means something. Maybe this is our chance to build something new." The next months passed like a quiet storm. The colony worked harder than ever. They built new roads to the mine. They crafted new tools that cut through rock with ease. Children learned to identify pieces of the mineral and how to shape them without causing damage. The whole settlement was involved. Nora found that the heat from the new reactors could warm growing domes more evenly. Her plants grew faster and stronger. She started producing better crops. She said, "This mineral helps the machines, and the machines help the plants. It feels like the whole colony is growing together." People agreed. Meanwhile, Alex and John built larger versions of Lee's reactor. These reactors could power drilling platforms, pumps, and even small vehicles. The colony no longer struggled with weak engines or unstable generators. Their machines ran smooth and steady. The new machines allowed them to dig deeper under the hills. They found more veins of the mineral, each one larger and richer than the last. Lee realized the quake had only exposed the edge of a massive underground field of the mineral. The discovery was far bigger than anyone had guessed. When Claire saw the first map of the mineral field, she whispered, "This could change the galaxy, not just us." Ben heard her and looked at the map with wide eyes. "Then we must be careful. If this is as valuable as we think, others will come for it. We cannot let the colony be taken or controlled. We must be ready to stand strong." The truth was clear now. Arden 3 held something powerful, something rare, something no one else had. The settlers understood that a new chapter had begun. They were no longer just a forgotten colony. They were the keepers of a resource that might one day change the course of entire worlds. But for now, they kept their secret safe. They worked quietly, steadily, and with purpose. They built machines stronger than any they had known. They shaped the mineral into new forms. They kept watch on the sky for visitors. The galaxy still thought of them as primitive, but the settlers knew the truth. Beneath their feet lay the future, and they were ready to shape it with their own hands. As night settled on Arden 3, John stood at the edge of the valley again. The wind carried the familiar scent of ash and warm earth. He looked toward the hills where the miners' lamps glowed faintly in the dark. He felt something new stirring inside him. Hope. Not the hope of help from distant worlds, but the hope born from discovery, from hard work, from unity. The hope that their small colony might become something more than anyone ever expected. And deep beneath the hills, the mineral veins pulsed softly with unseen power, waiting for the day the galaxy would learn their name. The first sign that the galaxy had noticed Arden 3 came quietly. It was not a message or a warning. It was a shadow drifting across the sky one early morning. The sun was still rising, weak and red, when a long, dark shape passed overhead. It moved slowly without sound. People walking to their work stopped and looked up. Some shaded their eyes. Some pointed. The shape did not match any ship they knew. Claire, who was already in the comms hut, stepped outside and watched it glide across the thin clouds. She felt her stomach tight. Ships did not come here often. When they did, they never stayed long. This one was large, larger than anything the colony had seen. The ship did not land. It drifted across the valley, circled the hills once, then moved away. No message came, no signal, nothing. John stood near the workshop and watched until the shadow disappeared over the horizon. "They saw something," he said quietly. "Maybe the cracks, maybe the mining lights." Lee nodded beside him. Looked worried but steady. "The tremors must have exposed more of the mineral. If they scanned the surface, they may have detected it. The field is big, too big to hide forever." A soft unease spread through the colony. People continued their work, but their eyes often drifted to the sky. Days passed. The colony tried to act as normal. They mined the mineral, refined it, stored it in the underground rooms. They built new machines and tested new designs. Yet the memory of the silent ship stayed in their minds. Then the second sign came. A smaller vessel landed near the edge of the valley. It lowered itself with controlled bursts of white steam. The landing gear touched the ground with care. People gathered at a distance, weapons not drawn but ready. The colony did not have many weapons, but they had tools that could defend them. From the ship stepped two aliens. They wore slim suits that shimmered faintly in the light. Their skin was pale green and their eyes were large and bright. They walked slowly, showing open hands. Claire approached them first, as she was the one who usually spoke with visitors. She carried a simple tablet for translation. One alien bowed slightly. "We come from the Velarin Trade Accord," the device translated. "We request peaceful communication. Your world has shown unusual mineral activity. We wish to understand." Claire kept her face calm, though her heart beat fast. "Our colony is small. We work the land as needed. The mineral you speak of is part of our world. We do not have information to share at this time." The alien tilted his head. "We do not wish conflict. We seek trade. The material shows rare signatures. It could be important." His tone remained polite, almost gentle. John stepped beside Claire. "We appreciate your interest, but we cannot discuss anything yet. We are still learning about it ourselves." The aliens looked at each other and then back at the humans. "We will return. The Accord values cooperation." They boarded their vessel and lifted off. The dust had barely settled before the council called an urgent meeting. People crowded into the center hall, sitting on crates and pipes. The air was thick with tension. Ben spoke first. "They know maybe not everything, but they know something is here." The first ship did not speak. This second group tried to open talks. "Others will come." Lee stood near the front with her hands clasped. "We can no longer hide the mineral. The field is too large. Our machines are stronger. Our lights shine brighter at night. They will notice every change we make." Alex asked the question everyone feared. "Are we safe?" Silence filled the hall. No one answered right away. Finally, Claire said softly, "We cannot pretend we are alone anymore, but we can choose how we respond. We must keep control of the mineral. If we lose it, we lose our future." The council agreed to strengthen the colony. They made a plan to build stronger defenses, although they knew their tools were simple compared to the galaxy's. They trained miners and workers to respond to emergencies. They established a watch system to monitor the sky, but they also continued their work. The new reactors Lee and the workshop team built were more stable than ever. They lit entire sections of the colony with soft blue light. Machines ran faster, smoother. Nora's farms expanded with warm air supplied by the reactors. Children learned to handle the mineral with care and skill. The colony continued to grow stronger, but the galaxy was growing curious. 3 weeks after the Velarin visit, a fleet of 3 ships appeared above Arden 3. Not large warships, but not simple traders either. Their hulls were sleek, decorated with symbols the settlers had never seen. The ships took orbit and stayed there. Claire received a message on the old dish. The signal was crisp, far clearer than any the colony had heard. "To the human settlement on Arden 3, we represent the Quarren Exchange Alliance. We request negotiations regarding the mineral deposits detected on your world. We are prepared to offer resources, technology, and long-term agreements." The message repeated twice, then stopped. Ben gathered the council again. "We cannot avoid them, we must speak, but we must not agree to anything. We need time." The Koran envoy landed later that day. Their representative was tall, with metallic patterns on his face. He carried himself like someone used to commanding attention. He spoke smoothly through the translator. "Your world contains a mineral of uncommon potential. We are willing to help you mine it. In exchange, we request access to a share of the resource." Lee watched him with caution. "We mine it ourselves. We do not need help right now." The envoy raised a brow. "Your colony appears primitive. Your tools are modest. It would take you many years to reach full capacity. Why refuse our aid?" John stepped forward. "Because it is ours, because we built everything here with our own hands." The envoy looked at them with something like amusement. "A small colony such as yours cannot protect a resource of this scale. Many will come, not all will ask politely. You may find yourself overwhelmed. Consider this as protection, not control." Ben spoke calmly. "We will consider your offer, but we will not decide today." The envoy accepted this and returned to his ship. But the meaning of his words stayed. Night fell heavy on the colony. The lights glowed blue across the paths. People moved quietly, aware of the ships in the sky. In the workshop, Lee and Alex examined the newest reactor design. The mineral pulsed with a soft rhythm. "This changes everything," Lee whispered. "If the galaxy sees what we can do, they will all want control of this place." Alex nodded. "But we are stronger than they think. Our tools may be simple, but we built them with our own skills. We understand them better than anyone." Lee smiled faintly. "Maybe that is our strength." Across the colony, children gathered around Eric's open-air classroom. They asked questions about the ships in the sky. Eric explained gently that the world was bigger than they knew, but they should not fear it. "Do you remember what we say here?" he asked. The children repeated together, "We learn, we build, we stand together." Those words carried through the settlement. One night, a soft alarm sounded from the edge of the valley. A sensor that Mia had installed picked up movement. She rushed to the council hall and said, "Someone is scanning the hills, not from the sky, from the ground." They sent a small team to investigate. John, Sam, and Mia walked toward the hills with lamps off. They moved quietly, the wind helping mask their steps. Near the base of the hills, they found a strange device half buried in the ash. It was a scanner, small and sleek, not human-made. It pulsed with faint light and sent waves into the ground. Sam whispered, "Someone put this here. They want to map the mineral field." John picked it up. "We cannot let them." They brought the device back. Claire studied it. "This signal does not match the Koran ships. A different faction must have sent it. Others must have heard the news." Her voice dropped. "We will not be left alone." The next morning, Ben called the colony together. People stood shoulder to shoulder. The air felt cold despite the sunlight. He spoke in a strong voice. "We cannot ignore the truth. The galaxy is watching us. Some come politely. Others will come in secret. They all want the mineral, but we are the ones who found it. We are the ones who understand it. We must decide how to protect it and how to protect each other." The settlers listened in silence. Ben continued, "We will not give up control of the mineral. We will not let outsiders take our land. We will strengthen our machines. We will improve our defenses, and we will speak only when we choose, not when we are pushed." The crowd nodded. Fear was present, but so was unity. In the days that followed, the colony prepared for whatever might come. Lee and her team worked on a new kind of shield generator using the mineral's stable energy properties. It was small but strong, capable of protecting parts of the settlement. Alex helped her install the first prototype near the storage rooms. Nora expanded her farm domes with improved heating. She wanted the colony to be self-sufficient no matter what happened. Mia built more sensors along the edges of the valley. She tuned them to detect any movement, even beneath the ground. Children helped carry materials and learned how the machines worked. "Every hand matters," Eric told them. Meanwhile, the ships of the Koran exchange stayed in orbit. They watched. They waited. But they were not alone. One dawn, Claire detected a new signal. A different set of ships was approaching, larger than the Koran vessels. Their hulls were sharp, angular. Their engines burned bright. The translation dish struggled to read their transmissions. Claire's heart pounded. "This is a military group," she whispered. The ships took orbit on the opposite side of the planet. They did not send a message. They did not attempt contact. The galaxy was converging. That night John stood on the ridge overlooking the settlement. The lights below flickered softly. He could see the outline of the workshop, the glow from Nora's domes, the movement of people still working late. He felt pride, but he also felt weight. The colony was stronger than ever. Their machines ran with power no one else understood. Their people stood together with more unity than most worlds. But above them hovered ships from distant stars, and more might come. Lee joined him on the ridge. She looked up at the sky. "We cannot hide anymore," she said. "They all want what we have, but they do not know who we are." John nodded. "We have lived with little, we have built with scraps, we have survived storms. We have learned to make strength from nothing. They may call us primitive, but they do not understand us." Lee smiled softly. "Maybe soon they will." Below them, the colony hummed with quiet energy. Machines ran through the night. People repaired tools, uncovered new mineral veins, strengthened structures, and prepared for whatever tomorrow might bring. The galaxy was watching, but Arden 3 was ready to rise, not as a primitive settlement, but as something the stars had never expected. The ships that circled Arden 3 created a tension that spread through every home and every path of the colony. The sky, which once felt wide and distant, now seemed crowded. People walked with long thoughts on their faces. Children asked questions adults could not answer. Still, life continued because it needed to. Machines had to run, farms had to grow, tools had to be repaired. The colony had learned long ago that fear could not stop the work. John woke early each morning and walked to the workshop. The soft blue glow from the reactors lit the path. He liked the quiet moments before the activity of the day began. In those moments he would think about how far they had come. Years ago they had struggled to keep old machines alive. Now their new engines ran smoother than anything they had known. But their strength brought danger. Lee spent long hours in the workshop building the improved shield device. She worked with careful hands, adjusting wires, testing energy flow, recording results. She wanted something that could protect the settlement if any of the ships above decided to act without asking. Mia supported her, bringing parts and tools, sometimes suggesting new ideas. "If we layer the mineral plates," she said one evening, "we might spread the energy more evenly. It will not crack under pressure." Lee nodded. "Good thinking, let's try it." They worked late into the night, their faces lit by the soft blue shine. Outside, Nora tended her plants. She checked the moisture levels and cleaned the warm air vents that came from the reactors. Her plants had never grown so well. She felt proud, but she also felt a deep worry. If conflict came, the farms might be the first place damaged. Meanwhile, the presence of two factions above the planet set off quiet arguments. Some settlers whispered that maybe they should accept help. Others said no, they must stay independent. But everyone agreed on one thing: they had to stay united. Claire tracked every signal from the sky. She wrote careful notes. She shared her findings with Ben and the council. "The Quarren ships send polite scans," she said. "The military ships send no greetings at all. They watch us like hunters watching prey." Ben frowned. "We will not be prey, not anymore." Then everything changed in a single moment. One afternoon, a blast echoed over the valley. People stopped, frozen in their steps. Children looked to the sky. A bright streak cut across the clouds. A small shuttle belonging to the Quarren Alliance was falling. Smoke trailed behind it. Sparks shot from its engines. It crashed in the western plain with a deep, shaking thud. The colony rushed to respond. John, Sam, and Alex grabbed tools and ran. Lee followed with medical supplies. Dust rose like a great wave from the crash site. When they reached the shuttle, they found it cracked open but not destroyed. Inside lay two Quarren crew members. One was conscious but injured. The other was trapped under debris. The conscious alien looked at the humans with fear at first, then confusion. "You help us?" he asked. John nodded. "Yes, we help." They pulled the debris aside, freed the trapped crew member, and carried them both away from the flaming wreck. Lee treated their wounds. She worked calmly, using simple tools and steady hands. The injured Quarren watched her with surprise. "Your skills, not primitive," he whispered. Lee smiled faintly. "We learn what we must." Soon the Quarren ships above sent a message thanking the colony for rescue assistance. The tone was different, less confident, more cautious. They had not expected the humans to act with such speed and skill, but the crash also revealed a deeper truth. The Corin crew said their shuttle had been hit by a directed energy pulse from the other group of ships. It was a warning shot, a show of force. The colony now understood. The factions above were no longer simply curious, they were in competition, and Arden 3 sat in the middle. That night the council gathered with more urgency than ever. The hall filled quickly. Everyone wanted answers. Ben raised his voice. The two groups above us are preparing for conflict. They want the mineral. They think they can pressure us into choosing a side, but if we choose one, the other will act against us. If we choose none, they may fight each other and we may be caught in the middle. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Lee stood. She held a small device in her hand. We cannot outfight them, but we can protect ourselves. The new shield is ready for testing. Works on a small scale, we may be able to expand it. Alex added, we also built new communication links. With these we can send stronger messages. We can speak not like a small colony, but like a force with its own standing. Claire took a breath. We need a message that makes the galaxy understand we will not be taken. We will negotiate, but only as equals. If we do not show strength now, we will lose everything. John looked around the crowded hall. We have lived with little. We have built from scraps. We survived storms and hunger. We shaped our own world. Now we must show that we are not weak. The colony agreed. The next morning, the settlers gathered at the open field near the workshop. Lee and her team stood around the shield device. It was a circular setup made of layered mineral plates with a small reactor at the center. Lee activated it. A soft hum filled the air. A faint blue dome rose around the device, shimmering gently like heat waves. People stepped closer, amazed. Alex tossed a metal rod at the shield. It bounced off with a crack of light. The crowd gasped. It works, Lee said. This is only a small version, but if we scale it, we can protect the entire settlement. Cheers broke out. For the first time in weeks, the colony felt hope stronger than fear. They worked quickly. Everyone helped, carrying parts, shaping plates, building supports. Children ran messages. Elders offered advice. Miners brought new pieces of the mineral. Workshop buzzed with energy. In 3 days, they built a large shield generator at the center of the settlement. When Lee activated it, a wide blue dome spread over the homes, the workshop, the farms. It did not shimmer much. It blended almost invisibly into the air. Claire sent a message to both factions above. This is the human settlement of Arden 3. We have developed defensive systems. We will not allow armed conflict above our land. We will negotiate only under peaceful conditions. We are prepared to speak, but not under threat. Moments later, both groups responded. The Corin Alliance said, we respect your stand, we request a meeting. The military faction finally spoke. Their tone was cold. Your actions are unexpected. We will reassess our position. The colony felt the weight of their words. They knew this could lead to peace or danger. A meeting was arranged on the surface. Representatives from both factions would land near the settlement, along with the colony council. It would be the first time the humans would speak to two galactic powers at once. They prepared carefully. The shield remained active. Miners and workers stood alert but not aggressive. The visitors arrived in sleek shuttles and stepped onto the ash-covered ground. The Corin envoy bowed politely. We come in peace. We wish to understand your needs. The military envoy looked around with calculating eyes. Your advancements are unusual. We request demonstration of your mineral processing. Ben stepped forward with authority. We will show what we choose. We will not give anything away. The mineral is ours. The land is ours. If we trade, it will be by our terms. The military envoy frowned. You speak boldly for a small colony. Lee replied calmly, we are small but not weak. They led the visitors to the workshop. The envoys watched as machines powered by the mineral ran smoother and stronger than expected. They observed the shield. They saw reactors that stayed cold even under strain. The military envoy whispered, impossible. His voice held both fear and awe. The Corin envoy spoke carefully. We wish to form a fair agreement. We do not seek control, we seek partnership. Ben nodded. A partnership is possible, but only if our independence is respected. The military envoy seemed displeased. And what of defense? You cannot protect this world alone. Others will come, stronger than us, stronger than you. John answered firmly. Then the galaxy will learn that Arden 3 does not surrender. We will stand with allies who respect us. If others come, they will face a united front." The visitors exchanged long looks. They understood that this small colony was no longer just a simple settlement. It was something new, something rising. Talks lasted for hours. The Coran Alliance offered equipment, training, and trade routes in exchange for mineral shipments. The colony chose to accept a limited agreement. A cautious beginning. The military faction left without a clear answer. Their ship stayed in orbit for another day, then quietly departed, leaving only a final message. "We will observe. The galaxy will not ignore this world. Others will come. Prepare yourselves." The colony took those words seriously. Over the next weeks, life changed again. New machines were built. New routes were opened. The Coran Alliance sent peaceful engineers who respected the colony's wishes. They studied, learned, and traded. But control remained firmly with the settlers. The shield stayed active. The mines stayed under human command. The reactors remained in the workshop built by human hands. One evening, John walked through the settlement. The lights glowed warmly. Children played with small models of the shield generator. Workers laughed after a long day. The wind still carried ash, but it felt lighter now. Lee joined him. "Do you think we made the right choice?" she asked. John nodded. "We chose our own future. That is enough." Lee smiled. Arden 3 is not primitive anymore. John looked at the hills, glowing under the faint blue shield. Maybe it never was. Maybe the galaxy just did not understand us yet. Far above them, the stars shone bright. Ships moved across the sky, some passing peacefully, some watching from afar. The galaxy was changing, and Arden 3 was now part of that change. But the colony remained what it had always been at its core, a place of builders, survivors, dreamers, makers. A world that had risen from dust and ash. A world that had become the heart of a new kind of industry. And a world whose people stood strong, not because they were many or rich or powerful in the old sense, but because they shaped their own destiny with their own hands. Their future was uncertain, but they were no longer afraid. Arden 3 had taken its place in the galaxy, and the galaxy at last was listening.